want to bring in our guest this morning, Wendy Cutler, Asia Society Policy Institute Vice President, former acting deputy U.S. Trade Rep. Wendy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
We keep talking about the skinny deal, the small deal, what kind of deal could actually be hatched here. And I would even ask, if you get a deal, how significant is the deal if you think a bigger, grander deal is what ultimately needs to happen?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to look at what's in this deal. But key for me will be, has China agreed to do anything on the issues that were the reason the United States came to the table? Or is anything on IPR in this deal? Is anything on forced technology transfer in this deal? If it's just about rolling back tariffs and some Huawei licenses and agriculture purchases, that's not really moving the ball forward on why we initially came to the negotiating table. It's a step forward, but it's just a step.
Yeah, then we'd be back to where we were with the Obama administration, not doing anything, sort of.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that, but
well, you know what I mean. Then we'd just be back to where we were when we didn't do anything ever before. So that'd be horrible. I'm kidding, Wendy.
Okay.
I mean, kidding, not kidding, is how Joe's really approaching this. My question to you, though, is politically, within the context of China, and to the degree that you want to see a deal that captures the IP issues and some of the more contentious issues that brought us to this debate or much larger trade war, is that something that you think is even plausible within the next year before the election?
I think it is plausible. I think, up to last May, both sides were making progress on these issues, and then things seemed to fall off the rails. So I think it is possible, and I think in this interim or skinny deal, whatever we're calling it, it will be important to see if there at least are just some aspects of those issues that are captured in this interim deal.
Can you speak to the pressures inside China on President Xi right now to come up with a deal that actually incorporates some of the issues that I know you care so much about? And the reason I ask is that the pressures on our own president, I think, are relatively clear right now. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the pressure on Xi to come to a deal right now,
I think the pressures on Xi are really about getting some tariff relief and lifting some of the tariffs. And I think that's why China is so positive about trying to find a way to have a partial deal. What worries me is that once an interim or skinny deal is concluded, whether China then decides, you know what, let's just leave things the way they are, wash our hands of this, and not go ahead and address the issues that brought the United States and China to the negotiating table.
My one question would be is, even if we don't increase the tariffs from 25 to 30% on that $500+ billion worth of goods, if we leave those tariffs standing, would that be something that would motivate China to say, OK? And the other question is, how has the entire calculus changed because businesses are just saying, forget it, I'm not going to do sourcing there. I'm going to try and find other ways that I can do this.
Right. And a lot will depend on whether this deal just avoids future tariff increases or we go back to the $250 billion of last summer. And if we go back to the $250 billion, China won't like that. But I don't know if that's a motivation for them then to make the really tough decisions that they need to make on subsidies and state-owned enterprises and other issues along those lines.
Hey, Wendy, totally different question, but same topic in many ways. I want you to weigh in on this dispute with the NBA and what it really says about the way American businesses have to operate within the context of China and the way they should operate and speak either freely or not based on what we're seeing take place right now.
Yeah, I think in every boardroom, people are struggling with these types of issues. China is a huge market. I think for the NBA, it's a market of over $4 billion, and it's a growing market. And so I think all companies and associations, they're going to really have to see how to balance domestic, necessities to speak up, as well as not to offend the Chinese.
But what is your take on that? Meaning, should U.S. companies effectively silence themselves to do business in that country?
My view is U.S. businesses, like U.S. citizens, we have freedom of speech. We should talk about how we see things. And if that upsets the Chinese, so be it.
Even at the cost of access to that market?
I think every company has to decide that for themselves. But I think U.S. companies need to be true to themselves and true to American values.
Wendy, my only issue with that is it kind of leaves CEOs in an uncomfortable position. These feel to me like talks that should be taking place from administration to administration, not a company left to negotiate with an administration. Is this something that you think could be brought up in these talks and resolved on a level like that?
I think it's hard for two governments to reach an agreement here. I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be business to business, and China is just going to do what it wants to do here.
But do you buy into this argument that there's a view among CEOs that somehow previously Washington took care of some of these issues, or at least ran interference on some of these issues, and so the companies were just doing what companies do, and they were following the lead of Washington. And now there's a view that somehow Washington is either taking a step back or so gridlocked that companies are now forced into this new role and position of having to take on these policy positions in a different way.
Yes, I do think there's some truth to that. I think Washington can quietly, make progress, in this area. And I think, but I also think this problem's getting larger and larger, given the nature of the Chinese regime.
Okay. Wendy, we're going to leave the conversation there. We always appreciate seeing you, and this debate/trade war continues. So thank you.